When does a parent's passionate advocacy for their child cross the line into domestic terrorism? In the heated aftermath of COVID-era school policies, a battle erupted not in the streets, but in school board meetings across America. Parents, frustrated with closures and mandates, raised their voices in protest. But what happened next sent a shockwave through communities. The nation's top law enforcement agency, at the request of the National School Boards Association, issued a directive mobilizing its criminal and counterterrorism divisions. The stated goal was to address threats and violence against school officials. However, critics immediately sounded the alarm, claiming the move was a politically motivated effort to intimidate and silence dissenting parents. This set the stage for a dramatic congressional hearing, where one senator sought to expose what he believed was a chilling abuse of power. The question at the heart of it all remains: was the government protecting public servants, or was it targeting its own citizens for exercising their First Amendment rights?
I read this somewhere. I don't remember who said it, but I wrote it, but I remember it. It was once observed that a parent who stops loving their children, if a parent stops loving their children, the children will not stop loving the parent. The children will stop loving themselves. I know we can agree that we should encourage parents to be involved in their kids' lives.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure we can agree that we should encourage parents to make their kids do their homework.
Yes, although there's sometimes some resistance to that.
Right. And to make sure they get sleep at night so they can be ready for school.
Yes.
Here's what I've always been confused about. Didn't you understand the chilling effect that it would have to parents when you issued your directive, when you directed your criminal divisions and your counterterrorism divisions to investigate parents who were angry at school boards and administrators during COVID?
So, Senator, if you just give me a moment to put the full context, I did not do that. I did not issue any memorandum directing the investigation of parents who were concerned about their children. Quite to the contrary, the memorandum that you're talking about says at the very beginning of the memorandum that vigorous public debate is protected by the First Amendment. And the kind of concerns that you're talking about are, as expressed by parents, are of course completely protected. The memorandum was aimed at violence and threats of violence against a whole host of school personnel. It was not aimed at parents making complaints to their school board. And it came in the context of a whole series of other kinds of violent threats and violence against other public officials.
Let's walk through this. Your directive to your criminal division and your counterterrorism division came in a response to a letter from the National School Boards Association, did it not?
In part to the letter and in part to news reports of violence and threats of violence.
And the National School Board Association said these parents ought to be investigated under the Patriot Act as potential domestic terrorists.
And you'll notice, Senator, that I said nothing like that.
I understand, but that's what the letter said.
There was a reference to that in the letter,
Right.
something I disagree with.
And your employees helped them write the letter, didn't they?
I don't know anything to suggest that that's true.
I think it is true.
Well,
And the White House helped them write that letter, didn't they?
I don't know. I have no knowledge about that, but certainly I don't know anything about my employees helping write that letter.
So you get this letter from the National School Board Association asking you to investigate parents that your employees helped write and that the White House helped write, and you issue a directive to your criminal division and to your counterintelligence or counterterrorism division to start investigating parents who are angry. What did you think was going to happen?
Say again, Senator, that nothing in my memorandum says to investigate parents who are angry. Quite the opposite. It says that the First Amendment protects that kind of vigorous debate. The only thing we wanted was for an assessment to be made out in the field about whether federal assistance was needed to prevent violence and threats of violence.
Well, one of your that's not the way your department implemented your directive. One of your field offices actually opened an investigation. You set up a website and a hotline to report parents. And
I don't think we didn't set up a specific hotline about this. This was a reference to the
Democratic
FBI's hotline.
Party official contacted you. They said that some Republicans were inciting violence by expressing public displeasure with school districts' vaccine mandates. And one of your field offices opened an investigation, which is a permanent part of their record.
Senator, I don't know anything about the specific thing that you're talking about. They used to say in high school this is going to be on your permanent record. I don't believe there is any such thing with respect to this.
I think there is at the FBI, General, and you and I both know there is. There was a lady a mom in Michigan. She has a special needs kid, and the kid was doing pretty well. And she got upset with her local school board over its closures and virtual learning policies, and she went to the meeting. And she made an intemperate comment. She accused them of being a bunch of Nazis. Why would the FBI open an investigation of her?
Again, I don't know anything about the specifics of the case, but accusing people of being Nazis, while I find bad, is certainly not criminal. It's totally protected by the First Amendment.
I mean,
I've said that over and over again. This is not the first time we've discussed this.
That's not what your department did.
Well, this is about the third time I'm being asked about the same memorandum, and each time I've said, and I hope that the senators would go ahead and advise their constituents in the same way, that this is not what we do. We are not in any way trying to interfere with parents making complaints about the education of their children.
But don't you understand, General, and I believe you, but don't you understand that this looks like you were just giving in to the teachers' unions and politicizing the disagreement, the honest disagreements? I mean, we only, as a result of some of our school board policies, we only experienced the largest learning loss for our kids in modern history. Don't you think parents had a right to be upset?
Absolutely.
Instead of, you implemented, what's a threat tag?
I didn't implement the threat tag. What you're talking about there is a part of internal FBI operations.
Yeah.
As far as I can...
You directed your folks, though, to open threat tags on these parents and investigate them.
Yeah, I did not direct that. My understanding from testimony by the FBI is that when somebody makes a complaint and it involves, if somebody gives a tip that a school official is being threatened, then there's, in order to look at trends, they mark it as a tip involving a school official. They have the same set of threat tags with respect to a complaint that suggests somebody is making a threat against a Supreme Court justice. These aren't complaints. These are tips of violence or threats of violence.
A threat tag on a parent for being concerned at a school board meeting?
It's not on the parent. It's not on whoever. It's on to indicate that a threat was made against, or at least alleged that a threat was made against, a school board member or a school official or a teacher or a school. Some of these turned out to be bomb threats.
Senator Kennedy, we're going to have a second round of questioning on behalf of Chairman Durbin, who has gone to vote. I'm going to call on...
You're blaming it on Durbin, huh?
Senator John Kennedy's performance in this hearing is a calculated and masterful execution of political theater, designed less to elicit new information and more to construct a powerful and damning public narrative. His strategy is built on a foundation of carefully structured arguments, a prosecutorial demeanor, and a relentless control of the conversation's flow. His central thesis is simple and potent. The Department of Justice, under the direction of the Attorney General, colluded with political allies to weaponize federal law enforcement, including counterterrorism divisions against ordinary American parents. To build this case, Kennedy employs a clear, logical progression. He begins not with legal statutes, but with a deeply resonant emotional appeal, citing a poignant observation about the unbreakable bond between parents and children and the importance of parental involvement. This opening masterfully frames the subsequent confrontation not as a debate over policy, but as a defense of the sacred family unit against government overreach. From this emotional high ground, he launches his direct assault, questioning the chilling effect of the Attorney General's memorandum. His chain of logic is designed for maximum impact. He links the DOJ's directive directly to a controversial letter from the National School Boards Association, which he alleges characterized parents as potential domestic terrorists. He further implies a conspiracy by asserting, without providing concrete evidence in this exchange, that the Attorney General's own employees and the White House helped craft this very letter. Every question is a stepping stone, leading the audience toward his predetermined conclusion of a politicized justice system. When the Attorney General attempts to introduce nuance clarifying that the memorandum was aimed at violence and threats, not protected speech, Kennedy skillfully parries. He does not engage with the text of the memo itself. Instead, he pivots to its alleged implementation, citing anecdotes of FBI investigations and the creation of a threat tag system. This tactical shift is crucial. By focusing on the purported actions of field agents, he renders the Attorney General's defense of the memo's intent irrelevant, suggesting a disconnect between policy and practice that implies either incompetence or deliberate deception. His choice of language is consistently inflammatory and evocative. Words like counterterrorism divisions, domestic terrorists, and threat tags are not accidental. They are strategic weapons intended to provoke an emotional response and associate the actions of the DOJ with the surveillance of dangerous criminals, not concerned parents. His tone is not one of inquiry, but of accusation. He frequently interrupts, dismisses the witness's answers, and reframes his own questions to maintain control, embodying the role of a prosecutor cross-examining a hostile witness. This aggressive posture ensures that the Attorney General is constantly on the defensive, forced to react to Kennedy's narrative rather than establish his own. He demonstrates a keen ability to adapt his tactics. When faced with the Attorney General's denials of knowledge about specific cases or the White House's involvement, Kennedy doesn't retreat. He treats the lack of an answer as an indictment in itself, allowing his accusations to hang in the air unanswered. His use of a specific, emotionally charged story, the mother in Michigan with a special needs child who was investigated after calling a school board Nazis, is a brilliant rhetorical device. It transforms an abstract debate about federal policy into a tangible story of a single mother being targeted by the FBI, making his argument personal and relatable to the average viewer. In the end, Senator Kennedy's objective is achieved not by forcing a confession, but by dominating the narrative. He successfully sidelines the Attorney General's defense, which hinges on the legalistic distinction between protected speech and genuine threats, and replaces it with a far simpler and more politically resonant story of government overreach. The hearing becomes a platform to broadcast a message to his constituents and the wider public. The current administration cannot be trusted to distinguish between a dissenting parent and a domestic terrorist. He has painted a picture of a justice system that is not only politicized, but actively hostile to the fundamental rights of its citizens. What do you think? Was this a necessary moment of congressional oversight holding the executive branch accountable? Or was it a cynical act of political grandstanding? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analysis.